And welcome to another exciting episode of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael. And before I introduce my amazing and awesome guest with you all tonight, I want to just take a moment and say that if my voice is sounding a little weird, it is a little hoarse because with last night being the remember the 5th of November election day, I have a little bit of a hoarse throat from a 7 hour podcast episode that I did last night. That was a lot of fun. So thank you to Emily Men's House for that over at the Beast System. So be sure to check her out. And I am going to take a moment and recognize Danny Flitz is in the house. Thank you for watching. And Crossroads Meets the Ocean Rose. Thank you so much for your support, and you as well, Danny. I so appreciate it. And without any more further delay, I am going to hand over the symbolic mic to my guest to introduce herself, the one, the only, the amazing Nova Bell.
Hi, thank you. Well, my name is Nova. I've been part of this secret space program. My mother was a surrogate. Um, I guess not I guess. I am a starseed. So I believe that, that's a lot of the reasons that I went through the program. Yeah. Sorry, I get this is my first time, so.
Oh no, you're doing totally fine. And so when you say starseed, what exactly, for those who may not be familiar with that term, how do you describe and know what starseed you are?
Uh, that's, that's complicated. So I know I'm a starseed. I mean, you feel it. A lot of times you feel like you don't fit in a lot of times. You long for a place that isn't here. I mean, I feel like when I look up at the stars, that's where I should be. I also have had a lot of different um, dreams and recalls of being up there. I've had a session with Steven, and he says I have connections to Sirius A. Now, when I was getting my downloads, I the Pleiades. I was picking up. I'm from the Pleiades, or have some kind of connection there. That all came in when I was getting the downloads and the info about um, troops being on the ground, and um, I like to call it like my highest self, my highest self name, or like my soul's name. Um, so I got a lot of that during the COVID lockdown. I had a lot of time at home and a lot of time to go within, and that's where I got a lot of the information about the star speed stuff. I mean, not even as a kid, I had a lot of different things happen. Like I remember in high school, there was one time I was in my closet. In high school, you don't think. So I was in my closet crying because the system was messed up. Like here on Earth, the whole system was messed up. And I didn't quite grasp why I was so upset about that. And like the reincarnation thing is backwards and wrong. And I mean, even to this day, I guess I don't even know the whole depth of it all. But these are things that have weighed on my soul and myself for as long as I can remember. So as I started going through and during that COVID lockdown and being able to go within, a lot more of that information came through.
Right, and what's interesting is I also did a session with Steven, and I got my Andromedan part back, and you're gonna find this funny because we talk about how much we have in common offline, that my next session with him, the retrieval, is my Palladian side.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really neat. I've met another person that has a connection to the Pleiadian, and the people who have that connection with the Pleiadians, I feel like they're very loving people, and they just want to heal. You know, their souls are great. They're awesome.
Yeah, and my first experience where I was looking at myths and legends, and the first one that caught my eye, and I don't even remember what indigenous tribe it was from, but the first story of myths and legends that stuck in my mind was of the seven sisters,
Oh, yeah.
and how there were seven sisters in the sky, and during part of the year one sister comes down and walks amongst the planet. Well, she fell in love and she wanted to marry, but she's a star being, so she has to be in the stars. So what they did was they made it so that when she's up in the sky, they're apart, but they allow her to come down and be with him. And then they said, "This is why you see, and you're gonna love this. The seven sisters are the Pleiades,
Mhm.
and there's seven stars in the Pleiades, but sometimes there's six. Well, when there's six, is she's walking on the earth, being with the one she loves, and then when their time is up, she returns to the sky, and the
Wow.
seven are back, and they
That
get to
is
do
really,
this all the time."
huh. I have not heard that one. That's really cool. I like that. I really
But
like
yeah,
that.
and it's like, it's like you're saying, when it's like moments like that. I'm like, the Pallades story. What are the odds? And when I
Right.
look up in the sky, I see Orion a lot more, but I always look to see where Pallades is.
Right.
And so, yeah. And I've often wondered, when you look up in the sky, is there a constellation that sticks out to you that you're like, oh man, everywhere I am, no matter when I look up, this constellation is right there?
Orion's belt, I want to say, is what always catches my eye. And actually, during the stuff I was getting, the downloads and stuff about my star stuff, it the Orion's belt was something that stuck out. It was something about finding the direction home. It was pointing the direction home, and I think it was referring to Sirius and the Pleiades.
Huh, that's interesting. I never thought about the belt as being an arrow.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Well, but if you think about it, isn't Orion the hunter? And the hunter would have a bow and arrow.
Oh yeah, you're right. Think of it that
But
way either.
yeah, and it's, I'm fascinated, Nova. Every time we talk, we have so many similarities.
Everything happens for a reason, I think.
I know. And it's so cool to find someone who not only
Right.
understands, but has the same, like, issues or same thoughts going on. And it's like, oh wow, so it really helps to go, so I'm not alone in this
Right.
aspect. This person over there is going through the exact same thing, so I'm not nuts.
Exactly.
I'm not imagining this.
Exactly. Oh, that happens to me all the time. I feel like I was telling you before we went live, I'm always in my own little world, my own little bubble. So I'm used to like not knowing what's going on and just kind of doing my own little thing and thinking that I'm the only one that has experiences like these.
Right.
It's really
Now,
nice.
I'm going to ponder a question to you around what, in transparency for the show, we were talking about before we came on. I kind of have a theory, excuse me, but I want to pose your thoughts around it. And what it is I was sharing with you that I was guided to a lot of the shows that I watch repeatedly are aspects of myself or stories that I've lived, and it's like recalling a memory. I'm wondering, are those, could they be Starseed or would they be the SSP bleeding through?
Well, I would say probably. I mean, anything's possible, I think, but I would say probably more SSP. I feel like they they're making the money off of what we had to go through, you know.
Right?
Yeah, I do think that I've experienced a lot of the same things, you know, watching TV and or shows, movies. I love movies. Um, and yeah, you'll get a flat of either you feel really drawn to it and you're like, man, I feel like I've experienced this, or I've had moments where I've had a recall while I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a little too much.
Yeah. One of
Yeah.
my favorite moments to share on the show, and full disclosure, I forewarned her I use movies, so and TV, so she's not shocked by this being her first time on here. But I was watching the last episode that they did of the Star Wars Skywalker well, I was gonna say trilogy, but it's 9 movies long. I don't know what you call those. I guess a
Right.
triple trilogy. But the scene in there, and I'm gonna assume you've seen the movie or at least enough to know what I'm talking about. But the scene where she uses her abilities to clear the sand away and puts 2 lightsabers in the ground and then uses her abilities to bury them back. I had tears in my eye when I saw that, and I leaned over in the theater, and I normally don't talk in the theater, but I leaned over and I said to my mom, "Remember how I told you after the this war that I buried my sword? That's what it was like." And she was like, "Oh wow." And it's like it really hit me watching that movie of like, yeah, this almost every movie I could say I remember this part. I've lived that part somehow in
I
some
believe it.
way. And somebody goes, "Well, Star Wars is the Orion Wars." And I was like, that makes so much sense now.
Right. Right. Yeah, I believe it. So who buried them? Who was that on the Star Wars?
Ray?
No way. Sorry, I
Yeah.
was drawing a blank. I have a Ray. I feel really connected to Ray.
Yeah, she was the one I think who really was the chosen one that they were looking through for the whole movies to bring the balance because she actually did do the balance.
Oh, no way. That's so crazy you're saying that right now. That is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
I mean, in the movie, you remember she went down into that hole that was supposed to be dark and creepy and was like looking at herself in the mirrors and the reflections. And when she came out, Luke was like mad at her, and she's like, "Why are you mad?" He's like, "You didn't even hesitate. You just went into the dark."
Yeah.
And then you see her
I'm gonna have
also,
to rewatch that movie. Holy cow. Yeah, keep going, sorry.
yeah, and then, and she's embracing the light. And at the end, it's like when every Jedi is like stands behind her and Ben, it was like, wow. That was a momentous moment of like, this is what the chosen one that they've been describing is truly about. And it's not meaning there was the one, because there was two standing there, but it was
Mm,
also that all the energy was flowing through them. They were just the conduits. They weren't actually, it wasn't a person. It was a someone who could be the conduit.
right. You're right about that. Yeah. I feel like you most definitely have to. You can't get the light if you don't go through the darkness. You need to have balance of both.
Right. And that's
That's
where I
my
think,
opinion.
yeah, they all were making the mistake of going, we can only do the light. We only can do light.
No, it most definitely has to have. You have to have balance. And I that's in everything. I mean, even in the 3D for sure.
It is. And I'm gonna throw this out there, and I may be totally off, but is there like a moment in Harry Potter for you that you experienced that where you were like, I know this moment. I knew this was gonna happen. I've done this.
Mm, I don't know, not off the top of my head. I have had recalls of being in a school similar like Hogwarts. They're really vague, but not off the top of my head. I can't think of something where I'm like, oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, I gotta say, my favorite scene in all the Harry Potter movies are when they're in that grand hall with the floating candles. I just think that is so cool.
It is
All the
cool.
candles are lit and floating in the air. I'm like, that is just the coolest thing.
It is. I love Harry Potter just because, well, the first two are my favorite because they're just so lighthearted and, it's just a nice feeling
Right.
when I watch the movies, for sure. Now, when I watched, I haven't seen all of the Halo yet, but I was watching Halo because I've had lots of recalls of, well, it was my child and that kind of get up. um, but I was watching that and Halsey, she was talking to her clone, and I had to shut it off because I'm like I feel like I've done this. I've been there. I've had this experience of talking to my clone and it telling me, you said so and so, you would never put yourself, like I can't remember the whole conversation between her and the clone, but I'm like, oh my golly, it's too much.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And the one thing I wish Halo showed more of that I think would be more accurate and for those people in the programs is they only show it in the intro, the nano suit,
Mm,
where it like just kind of becomes your skin layer. And I was like, that was like my first experience. And I was like, oh my God, this is the secret space program. The second I
right.
saw the intro, because I was like, that suit, that's what we have.
Yeah.
But then you never see it any other time. And I was like, what? This is such a key thing. Why is it only in the intro?
Right. There was another, oh, I lost it. Hold on one second. I'll remember it again. Stranger Things. That was another one that I struggled with when Max is fighting. Is it one? The first um, experiment they did. The bad guy in the episode.
So I'm gonna
Um,
be honest. I only saw I think half of the first season, and then we
oh,
lost what it was on, and I never went and looked at it online because I was like, yeah, that corner, the black, and it was like the alternate universe. It's like you were saying with the shows you were watching. You're like, I can't watch that. I'm like, yeah, that was like,
yeah, that was
no,
a hard
I
one.
can't.
but she was fighting that bad guy, and it's at the later seasons. I can't even remember. But I had crazy. So in 2012, I want to say it was Christmas Eve 2012. I had been staying with some family for Christmas, and we went to bed, and like sleep paralysis, where like you can't get up, can't move, can't talk, but you're aware of everything that's going on.
Right.
Well, there was this thing in the closet. It was super tall. It was like coming out of the closet. But all I could see was like the shadow of him. It was all black, face and everything. And it was like as soon as I realized it was there, like I was aware of it, it realized I was aware of it, and it kind of was like this. It was kind of like a telepathic connection or feeling. Like I knew I wasn't supposed to be seeing it. It didn't want me to be seeing it. Well, as soon as that connection happened, I went out, like blacked out, fell asleep, whatever. But I was conscious. I was aware of what was going on, and it was like a mental battle between me and this thing. It was not great. But that scene with Stranger Things, that was a lot like what I experienced. That was too much. But I kept watching, of course.
Of course. I may have to look that up and see if I can find it not on Netflix because I don't like Netflix.
I don't have Netflix anymore either. I don't know where else you could see it though.
YouTube, probably.
Maybe. I
People
haven't tried.
download stuff and put it on there.
Cool. I haven't looked there. I'll have
I know.
to.
I haven't either, but I'm imagining it's probably on there.
Oh, probably. But yeah, and I've always kind of wondered, with that being 2012, they say with like the Mayan calendar that it was everything was supposed to end. I almost wonder if something didn't happen.
So that was the thing that a lot of people, I think, misunderstood. Is it wasn't the cataclysmic ending that everybody interpreted as. What it is my understanding was, so the Mayan calendar runs in certain eras for a
Hmm.
certain amount of time. Well, 2012 was the end of one era to start the next era.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it is. And it's almost like you could say like the death card in the tarot deck. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean you're going to die. It means there's an aspect of you or a belief you have or a pattern you have that no longer serves you. So you're going to let it go and create a new one.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
new one will be
Right.
born.
Right. Yeah. And that makes total sense.
I'm glad because I was getting lost where I was going with that thought.
No, I totally get it. And I do think that there was an end of an era. Definitely, I think we've had many for sure.
I think there is. And I think the new era, what's interesting about it is, you know, growing up, you hardly heard anything about any planetary alignments or anything rare like that. But after 2012, it was like, oh my gosh, we've had like two or three convergences. We've had planetary alignments where they're all straight in a
Mm-hmm.
line. We've had the Star of Bethlehem appear.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like we've had all these things like start to appear, and I can't help wondering if, like, like we're saying, 2012 was the end of that era and the new era is arriving, and it's going to be a spiritual awakening whether you want it to be or not. It's like you
For
can't
sure.
help but throw a stone in this time and not hit a spiritual ascension moment.
Right. Right. I agree. It's needed though.
It is. And I'm curious your thoughts with as everything's awakening. I'm curious your thoughts of what's going to happen with everyone in the programs. Like what would you like to see happen in this new age of awakening?
What would I like to do with the people in the program?
Right, like, what the program is going to turn into or what's going to happen to everyone who was, put in the programs not by total choice.
Well, I think that should be number one is sovereignty. Like everybody should have their sovereignty. I think this whole manipulation and the wiping of the mind and all of that needs. I'd like to see it to stop, you know. And I people have a choice. They shouldn't be being taken against their will and mind controlled or fucked with. Sorry.
I
So I
know.
would
Remember,
like to
I
see
told you that this show
it.
is marked on everything,
Right,
and
right.
it's gonna happen.
That would be nice. And with the awakening, you know, I feel like more people I so just from when I started learning about the secret space program, that like 2020, I've seen a huge change in the community and it's been really positive. It's great, you know. And I'm seeing a lot more people out in the real world, quote unquote real world, who are more awake than they've ever been. So I feel like we are making progress.
And I'm curious if I don't know if you've ever shared this or if you are open to sharing, but what was your like aha moment that like were you hearing someone talk about something or did you like have a dream and be like, I was in the secret space program? I think I was a part of that and like started you on the journey.
Well, was so when I very first came across anything super soldier, it was I don't know 2016-ish. You know, I was scrolling through Facebook and came across one of James Brink's videos, and I was with um, my partner at that time, my youngest son, his father, and I'm pretty sure he was a part of the program too. But anyway, so I seen the video and I'm like, haha, it looks like you. You know, it was just a quick, you know, but we watched it and you know, we started getting into it. Um, but I have fibromyalgia and I was taking painkillers during that time. And I also have really bad anxiety. So I was medicated, highly medicated, when I first came across these James Rinks videos. So I feel like that had a lot to do with it. You know, they want to keep you in a low vibe and a low state of mind and addictions, you know. In being a part of the programs, I feel like a lot of people do struggle with addictions. Um, but with that, I had stopped watching it. So like I didn't even really take any of it seriously. My mind was all messed up. Well, 2020, it had I had my youngest son in 2019, and what I was having dreams about him before I even thought I was going to have another kid. I have two more children, and my middle boy's 14, so there's like 10 years between my middle son and my youngest. I thought I was done, but I kept having these dreams about um, this child that I was supposed to have. Well, you know, I had my kid and I got clean, and the the dreams and the recalls were just getting more and more intense, and that's when my star being stuff started happening, and I had been chatting with or starseed star being I meant starseed. I had was been chatting with some girls online who um were kind of aware of the SSP and the programs and stuff. And one of them had said, um, "Hey, you should look at this. Look at this guy." And it was, oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Joseph Powell. I've seen his picture. I'm sorry if maybe I shouldn't be saying names. Sorry. Anyway,
Oh,
I've seen
you're
his
fine.
picture, and I'm like, I know this person. I know him. And I had gotten more pictures of other people, and I'm like, I know these people. So I reached out to them, and I'm like, hey, I think I know you. And know, the stuff with James Rink's videos had already like passed through I'd already forgot it. That was years ago, a totally different lifetime in my brain. I'd already had forgotten about the videos I had seen with James Rink and all of that when this started happening. And that was during the COVID lockdown. So that's how I kind of got into it. I'm just remembering the dreams and I seen their faces and they looked really recognizable or like I had known them.
No, that's really cool. And I love how everyone's moment is different and unique. And so it just goes to show, like, that's the thing about the programs, in my opinion. How you can validate it is if you're resonating with everybody's story and going, yeah, this, and this, chances are you're just interested in the topic. But if you're like, oh, this, is in, I'm resonating more with this, I'm not quite so sure about that, then I feel like, yeah, you might actually be a part of the programs because no, I have not come across anybody, and I've only been since last August, in all honesty, but and I don't know a lot, but the people that I do know, nobody has the exact same story of this is how I learned. I
Right.
was, how it resonated to me.
Well, everybody's experience, even if you are with somebody and you guys are experiencing the same thing, you guys are going to have different perspectives and experience it in different ways. You know what I mean? Like you might
Right.
be together doing something together, but you're going to experience it in different ways. That's just like in general, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm looking at something that was brought up in the chat room. Linda Judd is joining us, and she says they say that if a sibling is 10 or more years older, then both children are considered to be onlys. I don't, and that onlys have a great attitude towards life. I'm not sure what she means by onlys.
I don't know either.
I got it. Yeah, that's a new one
Thank
on
you.
me.
Yeah. I guess I've never
Oh,
heard that either.
oh, onlys.
Oh, nice. Oh, my youngest. He kind of is like the only child sometimes.
Yeah, we
Yep.
get you now, Linda.
He's spoiled.
No,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, with, like, for me growing up, I resonated more with science fiction, space. Like, that just always fascinated me. If I saw anything about space, I was watching it. It was like I just couldn't get enough. And even to this day, I'm still interested a lot in space and everything, and now I understand why, knowing what I know now. But I'm curious, for you growing up, what was, like, did you find was your go to? Like, you're like, oh my God, I could not get enough of this growing up, and I could never explain why.
Um, I was always drawn to the stars too. I remember having an argument with my mom about so Ancient Aliens was, popping back when it was just coming out when I was a kid. So um, I remember sitting there watching TV, and it was just for entertainment purposes only, back then. And I remember arguing with my mom, like, how can we be the only beings in this whole galaxy? Like, that does not make any sense to me at all. But it was the stars or nature. Music was another big thing for me growing up.
So I'm curious when you say like the stars, was it like planetarium shows and just seeing, the star constellations and everything, or was it like looking up at the stars and going, I've been there, I know that one, I haven't
Just,
been there yet.
I mean, well, when you're a kid, back when I was a kid anyway, they would bring in those big tent things, and they'd have all the constellations, and you'd go inside and stuff. Like, that was my favorite always. But no, I was always just outside looking at the stars, and that was the only time I really felt at peace was looking at the stars. And there's not a particular constellation either. And that's when I was saying I feel like it's difficult because when you say like which star are you from or whatever, it's it's bigger than that. Like when I say I'm a star, and I haven't really said this to anybody else. So like I feel like some people come from it's so source basically. Like I feel like there's certain people on this earth who have sat or have been really connected to source itself. And I feel like those people, they're here now, and they're here for a reason. And I feel like there's really not a particular star I would say I'm from. It feels like it's from the vastness. I don't know how to describe the feeling, or you know what I mean?
I do actually, and I was advised by a friend that when I was in the womb, I was taken aboard a ship and they put, and it kind of messed with my mind a little bit when I first heard this, and I've come to terms with it now, but they took my, form and injected, like, say, Syrian, Lyran, Andromedan, Palladian, a bunch of different star DNA into me. And so, and then they were like, they put me back in, and then I was born. And so I was like, so I was created. I literally, that's where my mind went. I was created. I wasn't born.
Hmm.
And I was like, and I finally was like, I was born, and I do have multiple aspects of different stars, seeds, star beans. I think they're the same thing.
Hmm.
And I like your way of looking at it is, you come from source and you resonate to a lot of things. There isn't just one. And, there are some people who maybe are just, like they're a Lyran who came here to learn. And so they resonate to Lyra.
Right.
That's their personality.
Absolutely, I agree. And actually, so I was trying to keep a dream journal when I was going through my like reawakening, or however you want to say it. But I really wanted to know because I was picking up, my mom was a surrogate, she's really, and me and her have never, like, I love my mom to death. She's my mother, you know, she raised me, whatever. And I will always respect her. We don't really see eye to eye, but she's still my mom, and I'll always respect her. But I've always felt like I don't look like my family. It was always a joke that I was adopted. So, like, I've always kind of had that in the back of my head, like, I'm just not the same as these people. But so And I was telling you how, I had the cord and wrapped around my neck and my heart was not beating when I was born. So I wanted to know, like, how, where am I from? What the hell? What the hell is wrong with me? So I wrote that down in my dream journal. I wanted to know where I was from. And if I have it. But anyway, in the dream, I dreamt of me being created in a lab. Like that was the dreams, me wanting to know where I was from. I ended up dreaming about being created in a lab. So I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Shoot.
I'm just sitting here like, oh my god, there's another thing we have in common.
Right. I do think I believe you 100%.
And I'm also a little bit curious when you look at being star seed and through the programs and everything. Do you find yourself here like trying to do something and then you have to go, oh wait, I'm not in like the astral plane, or I'm not in this form or aspect, or I forget the term they use, the altars.
Hmm.
That's what it is. And so do you find yourself like sitting there in moments and going, "Oh, crap. I'm on the 3D earth. I can't do that yet." And do you have moments like that?
Just going through the day to day is what the hell is wrong with this place? um, yeah. So like in the astral, it's really easy for me to just like pop around. I think it, and I'm there, or it happens. Um, and so that kind of does trickle into the 3D for me sometimes too, though. Like
Yeah.
I'll be thinking, and it happens. I've had a lot of crazy stuff like that. One thing, I guess, flying. I I hate that I can't fly here.
I
And
know.
when I was a kid, I remember, like, I don't know, everybody's gonna do whatever. So as a child, I remember in the 3D, um, playing in my room by myself, and I'm jumping from my bed and flying across the room to land on top of a really high dresser, and like I'm flying across my room all over and it was like normal, natural, but I mean, I can't say I can fly now, but I swear as a child that I had that experience in with my mother, my normal family, not in like, you know, another reality or SSP stuff.
No, that's cool, and I wish I had that. I had the moments where, like you were saying, you move around so fast. I go to like grab my keys and my stuff, and I'm like, all right, I can be there in no time flat. And I look, and I'm still in the same spot, and go, ah, crap. I'm on the
Right.
3D Earth. I got to go get in the car and drive over there.
Right. Yeah. And like telepathy, like the connection with other people is way easier there than it is here. And that I struggle with that because I'm constantly in my head having conversations. I have a hard time remembering I need to actually speak.
I think it's a little different here because I'll be honest, when I look through and, on Facebook, the friend suggestion, I'll be flipping through there and I'll be like, every once in a while, I'll hit a picture or someone's name and I'm like, there's something about that. So I'll right click and open it in a new tab, and then I'll go on, and then I go and look, and then I'm like, okay, I'll send a friend request if, I'm feeling like, yeah, there's something to it, or if I'm like, well, I'm not really sure, I'll wait and and see if I get clarity. But I kind of noticed, even when friends suggest people, I'll look it up and I'll look and I'll be like, there's something familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. So I'm like, friend request. And I get a little excited when they accept back because I'm like, we've never met. But I'm like, wow, they accepted back. So maybe they get it too. And I'm like, I start thinking in my mind, going, wait, is could this lead to this, or maybe this and this? And do you ever get
Right.
moments like that when you're looking and you're like, wait a minute?
Oh yeah. Yep. I've learned though that learn to go with the flow of things. That's something I'm learning right now. Go with the flow. And a lot of times if you release that expectation, you're gonna end up with what you thought was gonna happen anyway. You know what I mean?
I do, and I like how you put it because I've noticed, like, I don't know if you have this experience, but for me, being here on Earth, I see where there are people that are driven by money. I see where people are driven by power, where people are driven by helping others, where, everybody has their individual drives.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've noticed that those people thrive in those environments. But if you take, like, say, someone who is into serving humanity and you put them into the community of making money, they are so lost
Hmm.
and they can't function in there. And it's like they don't have that desire to money,
Right.
but
I've
they're
been there.
living just fine over, in the world of, serving humanity. Everything's provided for them. They don't have to struggle. They don't have all of these. But and I'm wondering, you know, could it be, more of the star seed side of our DNA that frees us from being attached to certain aspects of here so that we can live and operate the way we want to over the way other people feel we have to, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
I think for myself, I feel like having that star seed connection, it's been harder for me to fall in line with the agendas and the programs that the normal society, So that was a struggle for me. Growing up, they teachers want you to do this, this, and this, and people expect this, this, and this from you, and that
Right.
went against every like gave me the icks on the inside. But I
Right.
think
And
that's because we come here for that reason. We need, to wake people up. I guess I don't know. You don't have to live in those norms of their program. It's programming to me. Is it all is fucking program.
it is. And I mean,
I
that's
mean,
why I
even
was
just me.
wondering.
So, oh, sorry.
I was just say, I was wondering, if it's Starseed or programming or both that we've gone through, that it's like, I could easily do corporate America, do the, slave to earn the paycheck and, make the big bucks and, have that high societal life. But I can also easily shift over to say, I want to serve humanity, and that allows me the freedom to do other things that help people, and I'm not having to earn the paycheck, but I'm living. I got a roof over my head, I got food, I got, transportation. Everything's provided, but I don't have that drive of I have to get up in the morning, go to this place, serve these people so I can get this check, so I can go home to go do this. It's like that I don't have.
Hmm.
And so I'm wondering if that programming doesn't work on us, or if we've kind of inadvertently, like a side effect of the programs and being star seeded, or both,
Well, I
going,
think
you
because
know
being a
what?
star
We
seed,
don't need that. And
right,
I can get everything here doing what I want that you're getting over there.
right. Well, I think that's part of being a star seed. My opinion, I think that's part of being a star seed because you realize that that is not really what life is about. You know what I mean? Like there's so much bigger and better. You know what I'm saying? It's harder for us to. I feel like it's harder for star seeds to vibe with the 3D realm in that aspect of needing to go to work. And I mean, I work. I have to work. I'm a single mom, so I do have to go to work. But it's totally changed when I changed. The struggle has changed. I mean, the environment, the vibe, my whole job has changed to be more suited to me, when I
Right.
changed that mindset of I need to, and even when I was in that mindset of I need to go to work so I can make the money, it's it's like a mental fight with myself because this isn't right, this
Right.
isn't how it's supposed to be. So I feel
Right.
like that's part of being a star seed, but I could be wrong.
No, and I wonder too if it's, our star DNA has the ability to say manifest,
Yes.
and our awareness of manifestation
Yeah.
is different than people who aren't awakened, because I personally I have the opinion of everybody is a star seed. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the awakened knowledge of it within themselves, and they may never awaken to it by choice, which is fine. Everyone walks their own path.
Right.
But I feel like those that are awakened and aware of their star, abilities, manifest differently.
Probably.
Like
Give
you
me
were
an
saying,
example.
your work has changed. You manifested work the way that feeds that not feeds that fits your needs for where you are. It's adapted to you. You manifested that.
Hmm.
You're not needing the corporate 8 to 5, you know, all of that, get that triple, 100,000 plus paycheck, a month. That's not what's driving you. What's
No.
driving you is a different manifestation. And that's what I think is why it doesn't work for us to be in other avenues, because our DNA is manifesting a specific way. And when you go against it, it's like it struggles because it's like, I don't know how to manifest here.
Right. Well, you start creating your own blocks. I think when you go against it. And I think
And
I feel like it's a process. I mean, when I first started awakening to all, I just wanted to manifest so bad. Wanted that farmhouse, and I wanted this, and I wanted that, and I was like putting all that pressure on manifesting these things and how they should look and when they should come, and you feel that energetic block and everything's just a drag, and I felt so tired. And so it's a process of learning what works for you because everybody's different.
Right. Well, and also, I find, I don't know if you've ever tried this. I have talked to a few people about going on the astral plane and being like all the things like you were saying, the farmhouse with the fence and everything, creating it in the astral and going and having that experience there.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen a lot of times, and it's nice. But then there's sometimes where you wake up and you're like, dang it, why can't it be here?
Yeah, and
But I do feel like that is also another part of the process. Because if you can see it, dream it. I mean, visualization is for me myself is a big thing in helping me manifest.
it is. And one of the things I asked my guest when I was doing a show on astral projection and the astral plane, Matthew Mornian and Cal Mekes, do you think the astral plane is the real plane? And here is like a world where we're learning how to operate in a 3D world and the limitations and how to adapt and how to function, but our real life and real everything is in the astral where we can move at thought, where we're not hindered by the need of money, where everything is provided. You just think it's there. I'm curious, your thoughts on that.
For me, the astral feels more natural, I guess. Um, and I've wondered that myself too, if that's like the real world. I feel like in the 3D though, I feel like we're here. I mean, it is, people say it's a school, and I agree with that too. I feel like here in the 3D though, like we're capable of creating. There's definitely a connection between the astral and the 3D. And a friend of mine, he even said, like in the astral, things happen there first, and then it manifests into like the 3D. So I feel like um, a lot of times I feel I lost my train of thought. Dang it.
That it's the real.
Yeah. Yeah. I would, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's like we were talking, like, with the Matrix movie, where Neo and Morpheus are sitting in that on those chairs and the lightning is going and the earth looks like it's been trashed. And he's like, this is the real. We're living in a Matrix simulation. And I feel like, so if you take the earth looking like trash and make it look like whatever you want, that's the astral. And living here, like you were saying, is the school. This is the Matrix programming. So we're
Yeah.
here to fulfill program requirements to do whatever we came here to do. But yeah,
Who knows what we came here to do? I do. And I don't know. I feel like we're capable of creating here differently than we are in the astral.
yeah, and I agree. And Linda, I apologize. I've been meaning to get to your comment, but I'll bring it up now. Yeah, she says, I remember in high school getting the notion that people lived on and were living lives in the same space that we occupy on Earth. I couldn't shake the feeling that there were others around me, but I couldn't see them.
Hmm. I've felt that before. I've actually like during some rough times, I'm like I've tried to contact an alternate reality version of myself, a parallel reality, and try to bring some of that here, help fix shit over here.
Yeah. And I gotta admit, I was kind of laughingly thinking about when, they talk about how being in the SSP, you have alters in different timelines living lives. I couldn't help but thinking, going, so if, like, say one alter is a billionaire, another alter is like a pilot flying, craft, another alter is military. It's like, all these alters are in paid jobs. Can we get a pension from all of these? Like,
Right.
you know, uh, reimbursement, or maybe like whatever bank account they left with when they merged back in, can that like become ours?
Trickle over
Can
here,
we
right?
manifest that back in?
Right? I've thought the same. Yeah.
But one thing, good night, Crossroads, meet the Ocean Rose. Thank you for watching. Thank you for that comment. One thing I have thought about, and I'm curious if you ever thought about this yourself, because I haven't really found anybody in the programs that have thought about this, and that is, say, I have an alter who is married, has a family in another timeline, and I merge that alter back into myself, hence that timeline disappears. What happens to the family?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, are they alters themselves or somebody else?
I don't know. That's like the question that's been like kind of gnawing at me a little bit, and why I'm a little hesitant to bring alters into myself, because I'm like, my brain is thinking, if my alter is living a life with quote normal people who aren't in the programs, and I bring that aspect or alter into myself, it ceased to exist. That timeline, as they say, will cease to exist.
I
Have
think they'd
I
probably go to source. Yeah, if you integrate that alter and the whole timeline cease to exist, whatever's there would I would say probably goes to source.
and I get that, but my mind is like, my first thought is I am killing these people by bringing myself back in. I am taking away their life,
Well,
bringing
just like the
myself
tarot
back.
card with death, there has to be an ending to create a new beginning.
Right.
Circle of life. I
Yeah.
don't think you're
It's
killing them. No, I mean, and a lot of times when we're in those programs and going through those things, is it really that great? Or is it great things going on there? A lot of times it's kind of chaotic and probably not so great. So, I mean, maybe you're doing something for the betterment by integrating that I mean, why wouldn't you want to integrate that soul aspect if it's something that's good for you? It's going to be good for all.
right. It's just my mind is like, I'm single right now, never been married. And I'm like, if my alter is married and has a family, what right do I have to take that family away from that alter?
Yeah, I can see your point for sure.
And so I wonder at times now if, because you're gonna kind of laugh at this, but I grew up with the first rules I taught myself was the rules of chivalry and nobility. I don't know why. I mean, I learned through genealogy why, but to me, it was like why that was, as a child, I'd be even thinking about that. I don't know. But I'm like, one family guy. I'm like, if I'm in a relationship, I don't see anybody else. And I can't help thinking now, I've never gotten married because my alters are married. And it's like, would I be cheating if I got married on my alter's family because my alter is me?
Right. No. But I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, and so it's like I can't help thinking, it's just like a mind trap that I got caught in, and this is why I never was able to settle down, is because I'm sitting here
Right.
thinking on these other parallel lines, I am settled down.
Right. But I also wonder, so I mean, I have crazy, I wouldn't say crazy, but I have different thoughts and it's usually when I have, do you think that, I guess, so what I'm trying to get at is, do you think that maybe you're thinking those is because somebody might be trying to block you from becoming whole? Because once you become whole, you're going to have, you, you're going to be a lot harder to control. You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I would buy that.
So I mean, I feel like sometimes when we get into our head too much, the monkey brain, I feel like that's so we don't go further. Like I was so scared to get on here and do an interview, talk publicly, but that's hindrance. Like I'm hindering myself. Why wouldn't I? Well, you know. So I
Right.
guess that's what I'm kind of, I guess, asking is, do you think that maybe having those thoughts or thinking along those lines of not wanting to overstep your boundaries with alters because maybe possibly somebody might be trying to put those thoughts or feelings, you know what I mean?
I do because I have a natural rebellious nature. Like if you tell me you can only drive on the right side of the road and the left lane is for passing only, I will
Right.
take and try and pass as many cars as I can to justify actually driving in the left lane and be like,
Right.
you can't tell me I can't drive in this lane. It's here. I'm gonna
I'm the
use
same.
it.
I'm the same way. Tell me I
And
can't and
like,
I'm gonna.
yeah, and like people go like, well, you can't jump 3 feet. I'm like, watch me.
Uh-huh.
And I will force myself to keep going and going and going until I finally do it. And then I'm like, there, I did it. And then I'm like, I don't care anymore.
I'm over it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm like, been there, done that. Don't
Yep.
care. And
Yep.
I'm kind of curious, talking about that, everyone saying like, I want to go into space. I want to go into space. I want to see the Earth from space. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen the sphere in space.
Right.
I don't have the draw to go be an astronaut to go into space. I'm like, I've seen it. I don't need to go back up there and see it again. I go all the time. I know there are people out there that are probably sitting there going, "Oh my God, the Earth is flat." I'm like, I'm sorry. I've always seen it as sphere. So,
Right. I don't recall seeing the Earth, to be completely honest. All of my recalls, I'm in a ship. Always. I don't recall seeing Earth, which is weird now that I think about that. It's interesting.
well, and one of my memories I have, a lot of the people in the programs are like wowed about that I have this memory and ability to do is again, I'm in the suit like we were talking about in the Halo intro, the nano suit. But I will be honest, my ship, and they'll be like, something's coming. And so I'm like, all right, everybody just sit tight. I got this. I go to the center of the ship, go up this like chamber or something that somehow I go from the center to walking in space on the ship. No helmet, no gloves, just walking totally fine. And I hit a certain point on the ship, and I'm able to raise my hand, and this energy comes out, and whatever's not supposed to be in our space that came through the gate disappears back to source, and the gate is shut down.
Huh.
So
Cool.
whoever is like trying to get through finds themselves slapping up against a closed portal or forever stuck in transit space, I guess.
Right.
But I'm like, it's closed, and then I just turn around, walk back into the ship, and go on the bridge, and I'm like, so, all good? And they're like, yeah, all right. Back down to earth I go.
Wow,
And
that is cool.
yeah, but
That's
I'm like, yeah, and it's like, you're on a ship. Why don't you go into space? I mean, we don't need all these
right.
helmets and gear. It's like, let's just go out and just like, I even float in space sometimes.
That is awesome. I remember in high school, it was a really vivid dream of like flying again. I was flying across the earth, but it was almost like before Google Maps was ever a thing, but I that's the best way I can describe it is it kind of looked like Google Map, from
Yeah,
above and I'm flying and but I was able to like go from the Google Map to like what Earth would really look like in that spot and it was really cool flying
yeah.
across Earth like that.
I don't know, and I like to tell people too is I don't know if it's I've been kind of told like I broke out of my programming, and so I'm not fully in the program. I'm somewhat out of the program, but when, like, for example, you were doing something and needed help, and you called out for help, and I heard it, I literally see myself doing this and going, hold on just one moment. I'll be right back. And I'm like instantly right where you are, making a grand entrance, either like the Superman or Neo, where you hit the ground on your knee in your fist and push the ground in a
Right.
little bit and get up, and you're like, what's up?
Yep.
Or, just landing really hard and like, just being like, just making this grand, huge display of an entrance and being like, what's going on? And you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time with these people. And I turn and I look, and I'll look at what you're dealing with, and I'm like, kind of brushing like dirt off of my shoulders and being like, are we ready now? And
Right.
watching them run and be like, all right, you good now? You need help with anything? All right. And then I'll instantly go back to where I was and be like, okay, now where were we?
Right. Like
But
hopping
yeah,
around.
and so yeah, I always like find it interesting that it's like I will hear other people that I've met in the programs when they need help and go. And I'm wondering, is that just a unique thing to me, or does anybody else? I've often wondered, does anybody else have that? experience.
Where they've gone and helped others in the program.
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, one of the ones when I was first remembering all of the SSP stuff was with a few people I know, and it was going to help them get out of some cages. Just going in and like owning the place and getting them out of some cages. Um, I told you how I have had my son. I've dreamt of him and I being on missions together, and this is like a week ago. He was on a separate mission with his partner, and I was off doing a mission on my own. There's some like zombie stuff, and they had captured my son, and I just appeared there. Him and I were having a telepathic connection, talking, coming up with a plan to get out of this mental home. Um, but like I appeared there right in front of this lady who was medicating him to stop his abilities. And but it just happens. And in my dream, she's like, "Don't give me that look." But yeah, you just appear and business is taken care of. And but yeah, it has happened with other people in the programs as well. Yeah.
I gotta say, I love the difference between like you and I is I'm like, I make this grand entrance to like install to the maybe think twice, maybe you want to change your mind and leave at this point, or just simply just like raise my hand and return them all to source and be like, all right, you good? And you're like, okay, now let's come up with a plan. If you go over here, focus on those, I'll focus on these, we're good. I'm like,
Right.
I don't wait for the plan. I'm like, let's just take care of it. Then we can talk and be like, what's going on? What happened? How did
Right.
this happen?
Well, and normally, honestly, like I haven't, I don't recall having a dream where I'm coming up with a plan to escape. I don't even know why we needed to come up with a plan, because normally I just come in and take care of business and we're out. We're gone, having fun while we're doing it, laughing. But
I know.
yeah.
And I feel like that is something that's kind of, interesting. Is like we literally like we're sitting here talking about like sending beans back to source, but we're like laughing about it because of how we do it. And it's like, yeah, I can't help wondering, are we like desensitized to like
I
what's
kind of
really
gotta.
going on, or do we like this is our coping mechanism of, if we don't laugh about this, oh my god, would we be medicated out the wazoo and
Probably a
be
little bit of
like
both.
catatonic?
Probably a little bit of both. I kind of have a twisted sense of humor myself anyway. I'm both spectrums. I'm really sweet, innocent, but I'm really not so much on the other hand too. I embody both of those energies. So I that's just normal for me.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because, like you say, you recognize people. When I sent you a friend request, did you like recognize me or get anything or no?
I did not recognize you, to be completely honest. I have not taken time to even do a whole lot. I've been being bombarded with crazy dreams lately, quote unquote dreams, and working a lot. But I picked up a really killer energy. Your energy was great. So I've noticed lately something about people's souls I can like tap into or something. Like I just pick up on their energy, and whether you're good, great, or in between, but you got a great energy coming off of you, and I noticed that right away. Really pure, kind person.
Oh, thank you. And
Yeah.
while you were saying that, how you talked about, we have twisted sense of humor. I was like, when you said, "Yeah, reading people's souls," I'm like, "Hey, you better be buying me a drink and a meal first."
It is not even like I don't mean to do it. I just like pick up on. the energy people emit, you know?
Oh no, I think it's built into us, and I feel like it's almost like a mechanism for us. And I'm careful to say mechanism and not a defense mechanism because we don't go into attack mode reading this energy. We read the energy of the person and we're like, okay, you're a high vibration person, let's hang out.
Hey,
Oh, you're a low vibration person, you're kind of be toxic, and I know you don't mean to and you're probably not
yep.
aware of it, but I'm going to veer off and not engage you at this time and not talk with you.
Right.
Nothing about you, but I am going to go over to this high energy and hang out with that for a while.
I honestly, I would rather deal with somebody who knows they're negative and full of shit than somebody who don't and is completely unaware.
Yeah. And I think that's what I mean is we can see their true essence, and it's like, yeah, they're being a fraud of who they are. We're like, we're not giving you the time of day. It's like, sorry, I
Right.
don't have time to deal with you and your, you know, facade. But yeah, if someone's in a bad way, we can still talk to them and still, interact. But it's not. We're gonna be like not going. Hey, yeah. So I'll see you again tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right, for that cricket match or that. I don't even know why I said cricket match.
There's a reason for everything.
Yeah, I'm like, how did I end up over in Europe now?
Right. Uh,
Or the bar, hanging out, whereas someone who's light energy, who is light energy and knows they're the light energy, you're like, hey, yeah, let's talk tomorrow.
I would probably even tell that person if that's negative and I didn't have any intentions on it. I'd probably be like, yeah, sure, I'll meet you and just not because I am not wasting my time.
I love how you're like, I'll raise your hopes that, yeah, I'm going to come, but I'm really not.
I'm
Sorry.
not.
But you're going to be
No.
sitting there looking for me. And so have
Have
fun with
fun.
that.
That's that twisted sense of humor. Sorry.
Yeah. But one thing, real quick, and I know we're getting close to time, but I we were I was about to mention something before we went live, and I said I'm going to save that for the show,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to bring it up now. And it was a question that somebody had asked me, and you were asking, and you had said I would want to know everything now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the party. I don't think I would want to know everything right now in this moment because there's
Yeah.
something in the journey, of discovery. If you knew everything, absolutely everything, I don't even know how you would function in this world on any
Right.
dimensional plane. It's like you would just be like, man, you'd be like 20 dimensions ahead of everybody. It's like you would be bored out of your mind, I think.
You're probably right. But okay, let me rephrase that. Maybe not now, because you're right. The journey is great. I've learned to love the journey. That's the learning thing. But I love to learn, so I would want to learn everything. Maybe not now. I'd take the journey. For sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious to Nova's one question that I like to ask everyone at the end of the episode, and it's kind of a little bit of a deep question, but at the same time, it's not really that deep because it's not limited. It's an open-ended, anything goes kind of question, and that is, From your experiences from birth to now, what is a golden nugget that you would want to leave the audience with?
What experiences?
It's a golden nugget just of your experiences. It's not what I mean by birth till now is not limited to what we're talking about. It could be something that you learned as a kid, or it could be something you learned in the programs. It can be learned from Starseed as an adult. It can be anything, but it's a piece of wisdom that means a lot to you that you would like to share with everyone.
Words. Be careful of your words. Words are spells. Um, that is probably one of the biggest life lessons I've ever learned was words. Be careful of your words, what you say and what you wish, because they will come true. And sometimes we say things we don't mean. So yeah, I would
Right.
words are spells, and be careful of your words and your thoughts for sure.
I love that. And I also want to point out to you, Nova, you have actually done an hour and a half on this show.
Really cool. We did
So
it.
thank you for that. And I hope it was as I advertised, so to speak, because I try to put everyone's mind at ease before coming on. So I hope I lived up to what I said I
Yes,
would.
for sure. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you. It was a great experience.
Well, I appreciate you as well. And anytime you want to come on, let me know and we'll make it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And so, for everybody out there that's watching and everyone that's in the chat room, thank you so much for watching this episode with us and joining us. And I just want to say to everyone, make it a blessed evening, blessed afternoon, blessed morning, wherever you are in the world. And if you're asleep, feel free to wake up and, turn on this episode and, listen to it while you get ready. I'll always
Exactly.
shamelessly plug my shows.
I love it. So
And
much.
yes, and make it a wonderful day. And like Nova said, as you go through each day, watch your words because it is magic and it is power behind the words. And to elaborate a little bit, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard this, Nova, but a friend of mine who actually who is on Ancient Aliens, when he was sharing with us about like the tarot, he said when you look at swords, those you move the S to the end of sword from the
Yep.
beginning to the end. What do you have?
Word.
Words.
I'm an air sign, so yes, absolutely.
So yeah, so keep that in mind. Your words have energy and impact. So be careful how you use them and think before you speak because you may be intending one thing and your actions and your energy is all on another level. So your message is going to come out different than you intend. So make sure you make everything in alignment before you use your words.
Mhm.
And with that, I am going to say goodnight to everyone. And thank you again to my wonderful, awesome guest. I am so grateful she came on.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to say goodnight.
Bye. See ya.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.